Strategy, A History, by Lawrence Friedman, Oxford Press, 2013. Chapter 21, Bureaucrats, Democrats, and Elites, page 300. Any student of society, at least in Europe, during the last decades of the 19th century, was unavoidably engaged with Marx as the most substantial as well as the most inflammatory figure in the field. However doubtful one may have been of his conclusions, let alone the revolutionary agitation undertaken in his name, the strength and range of his analysis commanded attention. Sociology developed as a discipline in response to Marx. One of its founders, Emil Durkheim, planned a study of Marx, although it was never undertaken. His motives were both intellectual and political. He had begun to study pre-Marxian socialism, according to his colleague Marcel Mauss, from a purely scientific point of view, as a fact which the scholar should look upon coldly, without prejudice, and without taking sides. While rebutting Marx, sociology also served as a source of the general form of social consciousness of the bourgeois intelligentsia and the reformulation of liberal ideology. Liberalism lacked a dominant doctrinal source and contained many different strands. There was nonetheless a clear political project, which was to find a way to avoid divisive class wars, which meant providing a credible basis for a paradigm of reform to be implemented by an enlightened state. To those, particularly in the United States, who despaired of unconstrained capitalists or corrupt and manipulative party bosses as a source of wise policy, scientific research offered the possibility of real progress. In Marx's schema, questions of power and interest were central. A more positivist science suggested something apolitical, disinterested, and dispassionate, as if investigating natural phenomena. When so much was at stake politically, could they really follow the evidence wherever it took them and be indifferent to the implications for the powerful and those who challenged them? In practice, mainstream social science was not politically innocent. Some supported conservative arguments by demonstrating the resilience of established social structures and, in the face of democratic optimism, the persistence of a hierarchy. On the whole, however, the practitioners placed themselves on the side of progressive forces, representing the assertion of reason in human affairs, challenging myth and superstition. A Marxist had no trouble recognizing in such claims the ideology of a ruling group professing a truth that happened to suit the interests of the bourgeoisie. The test of this ideology was whether it could provide a compelling account of economic and social change, and in the process a guide to purposive action. Max Weber exemplified both the problems and potential of social science. Born in 1864, he was the son of a minor liberal politician with whom he had a distant relationship. Weber's reputation and influence grew after his death from pneumonia in 1920, not least because, like Clausewitz, his devoted widow ensured his writings were properly organized for posthumous publication. Her biography, published after the Second World War, presented him as moderate liberal, representing the best of Germany that had been suppressed by the Nazis. His views, along with his personal life, are now acknowledged to have been much more complex, certainly liberal, always evident in his readiness to speak up for the right of individuals to voice their opinions, but also imperialist and committed to a strong German state. He would not naturally appear on a list of strategic theorists. Yet his influence was considerable. First, he sought to make the case for a value-free social science. Second, in his most famous work, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, he offered an alternative to Marx, demonstrating the role of cultural factors in the development of capitalism. Third, he described the spread of the rationalism of science into all aspects of life, turning him into an unenthusiastic prophet of bureaucratization. Fourth, he offered a view of politics that accepted it as part of a constant drama. Lastly, from this came a way of describing strategic choices that demanded attention to consequences as much as a yearning for an ideal. The Protestant Ethic was notable for its concluding note of despair at the progressive rationalism of Western culture, with its celebration of routines, the calculable, predictable, and instrumental, so that nature was subordinate to science and science to bureaucracy. The progressive complexity of organization, the specialism of knowledge, and the need for professional staffs all ensured bureaucracy's ascent. His conclusion warned of a coming iron cage, in which a rational civil service administration, whose true value is only technical, would be viewed as the ultimate and single value in reference to which The organization of all affairs ought to be decided. Those who lived in this cage would be specialists without spirit, sensualists without heart. Bureaucracy was soulless and insensitive, staffed by pliant men with a narrow vision, competent but lacking in creativity, without any sense of a deeper purpose. Bureaucracy played the same sort of role in Weber's worldview as capitalism did in Marx's. He understood its growing strength and irresistibility, for in his own work he sought to be a professional and competent technician, but he was unable to cheer. And while Marx had confidence that history would overturn capitalism, Weber held no such hope with regard to bureaucracy. Science had encouraged disenchantment and the loss of an unquestioning religious belief, but could not offer a new enchantment. Weber valued freedom and openness and could not object in principle to legal codes, sound administration, and responsible officials. Life might be drained of a deeper meaning and stuck with the mundane, but at least the system worked. Bureaucracy was formerly the most rational known means for carrying out imperative control over human beings. It is superior to any other form of precision, quote, instability in the stringency of its discipline and in its reliability, end quote. Likewise, politics was a permanent condition, unavoidable yet vexing, for nothing of permanence could result, whether peace, justice, or redemption. The sphere of politics was one of power and constant struggle. Power was about the ability to impose one's will in the face of resistance, which pointed to matters governed by force or the potential use of force. Politics was therefore bound up with the state. Politicians had to persuade others to follow, but this could no longer be done on the basis of custom and religion, and the bureaucratic method could not in itself be a source of values. This created the challenge of legitimacy, a test Weber posed in terms of acceptability rather than inherent worth. The nature of political belief was a central puzzle for Weber, although one he tended to address in terms of types of belief rather than their substantive content.